Hi everyone, welcome to another one of our Academic Success webinar series. My name is Ashley Bray. I'm the Disability and Learning Skills Advisor for the School of Continuing Studies, and I am here with my colleague Annie Balot. She is the Learning Skills Specialist for Main Campus. We're so glad to have you guys join us today. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to kind of go through a more career-focused lens. Annie and I have been talking, a lot of the students that we work with, whether they're Masters of Professional Studies students and have full-time jobs and families and are going to school, or if they're undergrads and just managing multiple internships and part-time jobs that almost add up to a full-time job. We've been talking a lot about balancing kind of work and school and how challenging that is, and maybe some tips and tricks that could really be beneficial to students in finding that balance. So that's what we're going to spend a little time talking about today. But before we really dig in, just a few housekeeping items. As always, make sure you're staying up to date with us on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at ARC_Georgetown. You can also follow us on Facebook, which is at ARC Georgetown. And then, of course, on our website, academicsupport.georgetown.edu. On our website, we have great downloadable academic resources, our drop-in foreign language tutoring hours for our undergrads on main campus. We also link to other campus resources and have archived ARC newsletters. If you stay with us on social media, we'll post upcoming webinars, resources, and events. So make sure you're following along. Okay. As a friendly reminder, this is the webinar schedule for the rest of the semester. We are coming close to the end, almost there. All our webinars are held on at 1 p.m. on the same Zoom link. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, April 16th. We'll be talking a little bit about study groups, really important as we go into finals. And then, of course, our end of the semester final exam webinar on Wednesday, April 24th. As always, you can find all of our archived webinars from the past 2 years on our website. So if you need a little pick-me-up on time management or want to talk about study skills or note-taking, you can go check those out on our website. All right, so just to kind of start us off today, you know, as I mentioned, we have a lot of students who we work with that are balancing work, whether it's full-time work or a bunch of part-time jobs and internships that add up to full-time work with school. And so this is some information actually from Georgetown Center on Education and Workforce from a 2015 study. So I'm sure these numbers have probably increased a little bit. But right now, 1 in 4 college students are working full-time. And I know I see a lot of that in my work at the School of Continuing Studies, especially with our Masters of Professional Studies students. Most of them are working full-time and taking classes at night. I know Annie sees a lot with our undergrad students on main campus who are balancing internships and jobs and even extracurriculars that at the end of the day really do kind of add up to a full-time work schedule. And one of the positives I really took away from this study was that early work experience forms good habits and helps students make career connections, and that work promotes skills like time management, communications, and conflict resolution. I thought that was really important to note because these are things that I'm sure if you've joined us in the past or have met with us one-on-one, we talk a lot about all the time. So really finding ways as we kind of talk through that, finding that balance and some strategies. A lot of this you're probably already doing in the working space. You might be doing it at school, and how can you kind of implement those strategies in the alternative?
Okay, so we are going to talk through some tangible tips that could be helpful, again, like Ashley mentioned, when balancing extracurriculars, part-time job, full-time job, all of the above. And we've mentioned a bunch of these before, but they're really important, so we really want to reiterate them. Create a designated study space. So this is really important in order to maximize the efficiency when you study, to find a time and a space when you are the most productive self. If you found a place on campus that you become more distracted than normal, we really encourage you to find a space on campus in your room that you can be productive and that you can, again, be your best self and be able to manage all the responsibilities that you have. Ashley and I have talked about before that the best type of study space is something similar to what a test taking space would be like. So, studying in bed isn't going to be the best choice because, again, we've already accustomed ourselves to being relaxed and taking naps in bed. So again, really think about how you are designing your study space to be productive. Prioritize organization. So especially if you are balancing multiple jobs, a full course load, it's really important that you think through what are the priorities for the week and maybe even on the day-to-day basis. What are the main 1-2 things that have to get done for both of the lists of academics and for your work and even extracurriculars. Thinking of how you can manage your time. And we have really good information on past webinars and in our conversations with students about time management techniques. Building out time that you can set aside to study. Being really specific with the work that you want to get done during that time. Breaking the workload down over a period of days definitely helps with retention. It increases retention and it makes the workload a lot more manageable.
Annie, I think one of the things that I know I hear a lot from my students is that they didn't realize how long things would take or that they're misaccounting hours during the week. And I think a really great resource that we have on our website is the 168 hours worksheet, which basically says we have 168 hours in a week, and how you can really break it down by work, by school, by just, that daily self-care, taking showers, getting your 8 hours of sleep at night, study time, to really break it down and see where your time is going and where those free pockets of time are. So that can be found on our website and a really, really great resource.
Yeah, that's really good too, because I think we hear a lot of students say that there isn't enough time in the day. And that's one of the best tools to use to say, where is my time actually going? And then you can adjust as necessary if you realize that time is going more towards one activity versus another. So yeah, that's a really great activity. Thanks for pointing that out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So you are balancing a lot, you've got a lot on your plate. Don't be afraid to look for resources on campus, Ashley and myself included. Look to your academic deans, look to professors on campus, look to your supervisor or to, like we're gonna talk about later, our colleagues in the Career Center to figure out what ways can you really maximize your time here and make sure that you are successful in all assets and all aspects of your career at Georgetown. I really like this next one, celebrate small wins. I think that's really important because we can get overwhelmed by the large to-do list that we have, the upcoming projects and due dates and deadlines that we have on our plate. So I think it's really important to come up with some small goals, maybe on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis. And when you're able to accomplish those goals, figure out a way that you can reward yourself. Really give yourself that space to revel in that victory and say, this is something that I'm really proud of. And really chances are that's probably going to be a habit that's going to continue with you because you've seen the product of being successful and the habits that you put into it. So that's one of my favorite ones.
I think to kind of wrap up, to keep in mind your long-term goals, I know I work a lot with master's students, and one of the things that I think can happen, and I know from personal experience, and I'm sure Annie knows from personal experience, balancing school and work, that you're so into the day-to-day that it's hard to kind of keep in mind why you're doing this and what your long-term goals are. And so I kind of, to go back to the celebrate small wins, to kind of pick your head up every once in a while and look at how far you've come. But just keeping in mind what you're working towards, why you're doing it is really, really important. And then lastly, practice self-care. This is really important. Make sure you're getting those 8 hours of sleep a night. Make sure you're reconnecting with friends or family. You're taking that time to kind of step away and process. And I think it's really good, especially as a student, to give our brains a break to kind of come back to things. So using that rest time, building in that rest time to your schedule is very, very important.
Yeah, and even self-care can be connecting with friends. It can be pursuing, a pastime that you haven't been able to pursue because you've been so busy. So really think about what things will help you be your best self. And it goes back to managing your time and ensure that you're putting it on your schedule. You're making time for everything so that you can stay balanced.
Great. So we just wanted to highlight, I know we talked about a couple of these tangible tips, but we wanted to highlight a few and just give a little bit more of a breakdown on terms of some possible strategies that you can use and implement in your own life. So for this first one, creating a designated study space, I think it's really important to keep it consistent. So if it's, one room in your house, if it's the lounge on your dorm floor, if it's a Starbucks down the street, kind of keep it consistent, because every time you enter into the space, your brain will turn on over into study mode. This is especially important for a lot of my online students. To be able to kind of carve out that online study space, to be able to, really take the time to shut down kind of the rest of your work life and be able to really transition into that academic environment. So really helpful tip. The other one is keep your phone and social media usage to a minimum. Airplane mode can help you keep things distraction free. So if you especially are trying to, I know everyone's got busy schedules. So if you're trying to get something done on a deadline, or you're really trying to stay focused, we encourage, especially during finals coming up, we encourage students to really, put your phone on airplane mode, use one of the distraction-free apps where it can actually block you from social media from an extended period of time, to really kind of give you that space to focus. As Annie mentioned, recreate that classroom environment, especially if you're practicing our self-testing strategies, which is one of our favorite academic strategies to talk about. Recreate the classroom environment. Time yourself. If you have 2 hours for an exam and you have practice questions, give yourself 2 hours to practice those questions. Really kind of get that feel for it, because it will help you feel more comfortable and confident when you actually walk in on exam day. And then lastly, develop a routine. As I mentioned, for my online students, this is really important, especially in our asynchronous classes, because you can really work through modules and courses at your own pace. At times, I think I've noticed that students will let that work build up over time. And then you have to spend 3 days just getting all the work done for the class. If you really break apart your schedule, and I think we'll be talking about some time management tips and strategies in the next couple of slides. But if you break down your schedule, really put in that class time to read those chapters, answer the discussion board questions, I think that will help you manage week to week and make you feel a little less overwhelmed. Okay, so as I mentioned, just managing your time, some strategies we talk about. Biggest thing, use some sort of organizational tool. It can be, if you're old school and like a good planner, a to-do list on a Post-it works. I still use those, but it's something that works for you. One of the most important things we tell students is your organizational system doesn't have to look like everyone else's. So use what works for you. If it's Post-its all over your desk, make that work. Google Calendar is great. That's connected to your Georgetown email. We schedule printouts. We actually have some of those up on our website that include spaces for to-do lists and some long-term planning that I really like. There's also some great apps out there, and we also have some resources for apps up on our website. But use something and make it work for you, whether that's color coding, setting reminders, however that works, make that work for you. The first step is, I think, really important, input all test quiz deadlines into the calendar. So make sure that whatever you have that are those big projects or big, whether it's a work project, whether it's a school project, whether it's a big work meeting, a club meeting, whatever it is, get those into the calendar. If you have a consistent schedule, put that into your calendar. So it's always there, and it's really a non-negotiable. Make to-do lists, set those reminders. And then my biggest kind of takeaway from this one is set realistic expectations. And I think this, again, is where the 168-hour worksheet can come in handy. because I think students kind of overestimate. You guys are capable of doing a lot, but it's really important you're finding that balance, getting that rest, practicing that self-care. So set the realistic expectation for what you can get done for this week. And I even tell my students, especially for the online classes, maybe plan 30 minutes more than you think it's going to take. And if you're done, you pick 30 minutes back in your schedule, but it gives you yourself a buffer. And that way, if you go over, you're not, criticizing yourself or feel like you're losing time.
Okay, so some more strategies to think about when it comes to time management. Again, you've probably seen some of these before, but again, they're really important, so we want to reiterate them. Make a list of all the things that you want to accomplish that day in order of importance. Again, like Ashley mentioned, this could be work related, it could be school related, it could be extracurricular related, and maybe you're making 3 different or 2 different lists that list out the different tasks and items that you have on those to-do lists, and then start to think about what the priorities are. When are the upcoming due dates? How many steps will it take for you to complete or get to the end in order to turn in the final project to your supervisor or to turn in that final paper to your professor? So think about what effort, what steps need to go into each of those tasks, and then that can help you set those priorities. Use your waiting time. This is a really great strategy that we encourage all students to do, and thinking about in between classes, or maybe when you're on the metro to internship, or maybe it's just like a 10-15 minute period between meetings. Can you use that time to be productive? Is there 5-10 minutes that you can review your notes or to consolidate your notes, to start creating a Quizlet, or to start reviewing information or pinpointing questions that you already had from a lecture that you just came from? So use those spare minutes in between your day to capitalize and be really productive. The goal too is to know what task you want to accomplish during that time period, because it's really easy to say, okay, I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes and then I'll think about what I want to get done during that 20 minutes. Well, you might not be as efficient as you want to be. So know ahead of time what you want to get done during your waiting time, so you can really maximize and utilize that time period. Think about your high and low periods of concentration. Are you more productive in the morning? Is the evening time the time where you can really hone in and focus in on your coursework or that upcoming project that is due for your supervisor? So then you can schedule or reschedule or adjust your schedule accordingly based on when you feel more focused, when you feel like you can be your most productive. One of the best lines that we have is don't steal time, trade it. And we've talked about this a lot. Thinking about the way that you coordinate and create your schedule, we can't unfortunately buy more time in a day, but we can adjust it and we can trade it. So like Ashley mentioned, give yourself some buffer time. And if you finish the work during, before that goal time, wonderful. You're able to recapture that time, reclaim it, and adjust it to another activity or to another day, depending on what your priority list looks like.
Great. So to kind of wrap us out, we talked a little bit about some strategies to use of finding that balance between work and school, but we wanted to end with some resources, specifically around our career center. So first, we're going to start with the School of Continuing Studies, and this is provided to us by Dean Cantor, who's our Senior Associate Dean for Students and Academic Operations at the School of Continuing Studies, and he wanted to make sure that we shared our resources for our SES students. All right, so just kind of starting off with the basics, the cover letter and resume review. Review your cover letter and resume through the guidance of the SES website in the career section. So when you go to that Georgetown SES website, there is a career resources section. That's where you're gonna find this information. And then afterwards, I think this is a great strategy. Find a peer to review your work and offer suggestions. Maybe someone who's in the field, maybe you have a mentor, but I think, being able to have someone else look at it and maybe catch some edits that you might have not seen is really, really important. And then let's talk a little bit about the academic planning piece. So connect with your program advisor to discuss your academic plan and long-term professional goals. Most of our program advisors are so wonderful, and these are usually part of the conversations already, but it's kind of helpful to come prepared, especially maybe to that first meeting or those check-in meetings, especially as you're getting closer to your capstone classes, with some ideas in mind and some long-term goals that you've written out. Your advisor can kind of assist in mapping out the best course of action for your academics so that they can give you, they can help you gain skills to make sure that you make the appropriate next career leap. And one of the great things about SES is so many of our faculty and advisors are working in the fields that they're advising in. So they have a lot of great resources and strategies and just kind of insider knowledge. And then lastly, building a network. So schedule time with your faculty director to discuss your experiences in the program, share your interests within the industry. And this is a really important first step in building your industry network. I can tell from my own personal experiences, some of my greatest mentors and just kind of my network within the field have been people I've met through my graduate program. So really, really important. Stay connected with us even after you graduate. Get into the practice of connecting with your classmates each semester, and I think this is a great strategy, especially for our online students. Kind of come up with your own little cohort and sharing your professional goals. Most students have gotten leads on new jobs based on their personal connections within their academic program, and I'm sure that staying connected will help them share. Attend SES school-wide events. Do not stay within the confines of your specific academic programs. I think this is such a great tip because you don't really know when you're going to meet someone who might know someone or might actually work in the field, and it might be at an event that has nothing to do with what you're studying. So I think this is great, and just kind of building out your network, and you don't know when you might need to come back and utilize those connections later in life. And then finally, explore the opportunities and connections with the Georgetown Alumni Career Network. So staying connected with us as after graduation. And then finally, just some tangible, just resources. So School of Continuing Study students do have access to the Career Center on main campus. They can do a drop-in 15-minute drop-in appointment Mondays through Fridays from 1 to 3 p.m. To discuss resources, review documents, or start planning internships or job searches. There's Handshake. The SES students have access to a university-wide job and internship database, which contains thousands of listings throughout the year. You can visit Handshake to create your profile and check out the diverse array of positions that are updated each day. So if you're not registered, haven't checked that out, go ahead and put that on your bookmarks because that's a great resource for you to have. Finally, SES students are often invited to events on main campus. These can range from employer presentations to educational fit seminars, and those events are all in this events tab in Handshake for listings. So sounds like if you're looking for a job or just looking to build out your network, make sure you've got Handshake bookmark because it's a great, great resource.
And we just want to point you to some resources for main campus students that are through the Colley Career Center as well. And this is a great page that we really wanted to point everyone's attention to. There are resources for specific and diverse populations. So as you can see, there are information and resources for international students, for our LGBTQ students, for students of color. And I think on our next page, we've got resources for students with disabilities, resources for undocumented students, resources for veterans, and resources for women. So lots of plentiful information. Again, this is all hosted under the Colley Career Center website, but something that we really wanted to point out as you start thinking about internships. Summer's coming around the bend, so start thinking about what types of things can you accomplish this summer, and the Colley Career Center is going to be a great resource for you. And the next page that we wanted to really just highlight is the major and career guides, which is going to be similar to what Ashley just talked about for the SES students, but looking at self-exploration, what can you do with your major, help with resumes, cover letters, and more. So again, really good career guides, tips and tricks for those specific students, and just thinking through what types of careers you're interested in, how can you really take your career to future positions and future opportunities. And again, just utilize all the resources on campus to the max so that you feel you can balance everything and you have a handle on all aspects of your career at Georgetown.
All right. Well, thank you guys again so much for joining us today. We hopefully this was helpful in connecting you with all the great career resources we have on campus and talking a little bit about career strategies, balancing that work and academic piece of it. As always, you can provide us feedback on our feedback survey, which is https://tinyurl.com/ARC webinar feedback form. So feel free to drop us a line there to think of some other topics or ideas for upcoming webinars. And we hope to see you all here in 2 weeks on Tuesday, April 16th, when we're going to be talking about study groups. Hope everyone is enjoying spring weather, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.